Akira Toriyama has died at age 68. Everyone is sitting here agape in shock. We've lost the most influential illustrator who ever has lived. As I think of Toriyama being gone, all that runs through my head is countless images of middle school kids drawing Gohan in class, or how I first started understanding how to draw, like conceiving in any way, shape, or form how to create a human-esque figure out of lines by tracing over images from a Dragon Ball Z coloring book. When I was a kid, DBZ was practically ubiquitous with boys my age. I was more into cutesier fare like Pokemon, but I was fascinated by Dragon Ball and its continuous narrative and lore, which I would always learn about from other kids who were excited to share whatever they had read in magazines or online about stuff that happens way later in the story, which hadn't even made it to the United States yet. I keep thinking of the images that Ghost Lightning put into my head when he described to me how groups of guys in Manila and the Philippines would be gathered outside of TV stores watching the end of the Frieza saga through the front windows. I think about the news reports of the massive parade that followed the end of the manga's historical run in Shonen Jump, which would define what popular manga has been ever since. From the world of manga, the only success stories which even come close to paralleling Dragon Ball are from authors who took influence from it directly, such as One Piece creator Eiichiro Oda and Naruto creator Masashi Kishimoto. Even when I was a child, when I was 13, I understood how influential Toriyama was because these authors were writing about how inspired they had been by Dragon Ball in the afterward sections of their manga's collected volumes. It blew my mind even more as a kid when I found out how Dragon Ball wasn't even the first or only ridiculously influential thing the guy had done. Besides the huge gag manga that he'd first become known for in Japan, Dr. Slump, I didn't even know as a kid about his towering contributions to video game art design. Between designing the single most influential RPG series ever, Dragon Quest, and what is considered by a huge number of people to be one of the greatest video games ever made, Chrono Trigger. Over time, these stories have all only grown in reputation and influence to the point that it's incredibly difficult to imagine a person with any deeper interest in manga, anime, or RPGs who's never come across any of Toriyama's work. It is impossible to imagine the modern landscape of artwork without Toriyama's influence. If Disney or if Marvel Comics had ever had one singular art style, maybe some other artist could compete. But Akira Toriyama is the only artist ever whose singular trademark style of drawing made everything he worked on into one of the most popular things that ever existed in its category. And it affected the way that every illustrator would understand drawing from that point forward. I don't think there has ever been another person who has affected the way that as many people draw as Akira Toriyama did. Nobody was prepared to deal with this loss, and Toriyama was in the middle of a bunch of active projects at the time of his death, with an upcoming Sandland adaptation, and with Dragon Ball Daima being, well, now the last entry in that franchise that he'll ever be involved with. I feel like we all expected to have this man around for a lot longer, with more time to celebrate him as the god that he was. It's difficult to even process the idea that the guy who made Dragon Ball was alive yesterday and isn't anymore right now. The world just feels like a completely different place with that in mind, like a whole artistic era just came to an end because we will never have a new Toriyama. I write this mostly to process it myself and because I know that others are going to need help processing it, because I've been sitting on Twitter retweeting everyone else's sentiments for hours, trying to figure out where there is emotional closure in the loss of an unparalleled legend. I expect the ruminations of this loss to echo in the streets of humanity for some time to come. Thank you for everything, Toriyama-sensei. I'd now like to read the statements that Eiichiro Oda and Masashi Kishimoto put out, partly to signal boost them to anybody watching this video, and also because these are incredibly heartbreaking. I'm warning you right now. From Eiichiro Oda. It's too early. The hole is too big. The thought of never seeing you again fills me with sadness. I've admired you so much since I was a child, and I even remember the day when you called me by name for the first time. I also missed the day when I had a great time with Mr. Kishimoto on the way home from the day when he used the word friend for us. I also remember the last conversation we had. He is one of the people who took the baton from an era when reading manga would make you stupid and created an era where both adults and children read and enjoy manga. He showed us the dream that manga can do things like this and that we can go to the world. He gave it to me. It was like watching a hero push forward. The excitement that he experienced when he serialized Dragon Ball is probably rooted in the childhoods of creators who are active in all industries, not just manga artists. That existence is a great tree. From manga artists of my generation who have stood on the same stage, the closer I got to Toriyama's works, the more I realized that they had a greater presence, almost scary. But I'm just happy to see the easygoing man himself again, because we love Toriyama-sensei on a blood level. I would like to express my respect and gratitude to the world of creativity left behind by Toriyama-sensei, and pray for his repose in peace. I hope that heaven will be a pleasant world, just as you envisioned it. From Masashi Kishimoto. Honestly, I don't know what to write or how to write about something so sudden. However, for now, I would like to express my thoughts and feelings to Toriyama-sensei, something I wish he would have asked me someday. I grew up with Dr. Slump in the lower grades of elementary school and Dragon Ball in the upper grades, and it was natural for me to have his manga next to me as part of my life. Even if I had a bad experience, watching Dragon Ball every week made me forget about it. It was a relief for me, a country boy who had nothing, because Dragon Ball was really fun. It was when I was a university student that suddenly the Dragon Ball that had been a part of my life for so many years ended. I felt an incredible sense of loss and didn't know what to look forward to. But at the same time, it was also an opportunity for me to truly understand the greatness of the teacher who created Dragon Ball. I also want to create works like yours. I want to be like my teacher. As I followed in my teacher's footsteps and aspired to become a manga artist, that feeling of loss began to disappear, because making comics was fun. I was able to find new fun by following my teacher. My teacher has always been my guide. I admired it. I apologize for the inconvenience, but I would like to express my gratitude to the teacher. For me, he was the god of salvation and the god of manga. When we met for the first time, I was so nervous that I couldn't say a word. However, after meeting him many times at the Tezuka Prize screening committee, we became able to talk. As Dragon Ball children, I and Oda-sensei went back to being children again, and when we talked excitedly about how much Dragon Ball was fun, as if we were competing with each other, I forgot how he looked a little embarrassed and smiled at me. I can't. I have just received the news of the death of my teacher. I feel an even greater sense of loss than when Dragon Ball ended. I still don't know how to deal with this big hole in my heart. Now I can't even read my favorite Dragon Ball. I don't feel like I've been able to properly write the sentence that I want to convey to my teacher. Everyone around the world was still looking forward to seeing your work. If Dragon Ball's one wish really comes true, I'm sorry. Maybe that's selfish, but it's sad, Sensei. Thank you, Akira Toriyama Sensei, for all of your enjoyable works over the past 45 years, and thank you very much for your hard work. We are sure that the remaining family members are still deeply hurt. Please take care of yourself. I pray that Mr. Akira Toriyama rests in peace. I have been Trixie the Golden Witch. Thank you for listening. Akira Toriyama, forever.